Well, political analyst Professor Dirk Kotze joins us now to share some thoughts on both the ANC NGC that has, that's beginning tomorrow, and the Africa Mayibuye Movement convention, which was held over the past weekend. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to SABC News on the late edition.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Now, Prof, the ANC is once again promising organizational renewal and ethical leadership. So, how many times have we heard this before? And why should anyone believe this time around is different?
Yes, you are indeed very much correct. It is almost a standing item on most of the agendas of NEC meetings, of the national conference earlier on, and now again on this. So I think it's going to be exceptionally difficult for the ANC to come up with a new strategy. I think they've tried most of the ideas that they could generate from within them. They've established a renewal commission or committee quite some time back, actually, and it is not really producing the results that I think the public in general is looking for. It is not turning around, it's not having a new approach, for example, to ill discipline or to unethical conduct amongst them, the way in which they deal with, for example, those in the national executive of the ANC, as well as in cabinet, of some members who are in public being implicated, but then not much is happening with respect to them. I think where there is a turnaround is now with the Matlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee in Parliament. That is a new trend that we are seeing, but it's not coming from the ANC. It comes from government. So I think for the ANC, it is really a challenge to present themselves as a transformed or a changed entity. And it is not about decision-making at an event like this. It is about demonstrating it to the public. And I think that's the most difficult test for them.
It certainly is the most difficult test, especially when it borders around accountability. I mean, there's talk of accountability, but can a party credibly demand ethical leadership when some of its own senior figures have not faced consequences?
Yes, I think this is one of their main challenges. They've established the Integrity Commission in the ANC as a mechanism in order to deal with that. But again, I don't think, there's been so many debates around the Integrity Commission, especially about its powers, and whether it is subsidiary to the National Executive Committee or whether it is an autonomous body within the ANC, it can take its own decisions, or whether it is simply recommending to the National Executive Committee. So I think for many people, it's seen as one of the steps that members who are implicated in whatever accusations that they must follow in order to avoid to apply the step-aside rule, for example.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen really decisive interventions by the Integrity Commission in order to enforce that. So again, they have the documents in place that they use in order to determine what is the qualities that leadership requires. They have now changed the way in which nominations must take place. They've improved the management of their membership through putting it on an online system. So they've done quite a lot. But the point is that it's still about the quality of the members themselves. To what extent do they comply with this? Do they sort of integrate it into the way in which they conduct themselves within the context of ANC activities? And I think that is where the real challenge for the ANC still remains to be.
Well, Prof, historically, have the decisions taken at the various NGCs materially shifted the ANC's direction, or have they mainly been damage control exercises? Yes,
NGCs, generally speaking, are not really decision-making bodies or events. It is, as President Ramaphosa referred to it, is in the sense of assessing, midterm assessing of the progress being made, both by the ANC and by the ANC in government. So it is looking back to the last national conference, and what is the progress of the ANC so far in terms of their own resolutions that they've adopted at the national conference, but then also since last year, with the national and provincial election, to what extent are they already implementing the mandate that they've received there? It's not an easy process to do that, but that is in principle what the NGC is supposed to do.
Let's now, turn our focus to the Mayibuye Africa Movement led by Floyd Shivambu. They hosted their very first convention the past week. And in fact, before we get to that discussion, let's take a look at what the leader, Floyd Shivambu, had to say.
No, look, we have just concluded a very successful national convention, inaugural convention of Africa Mayibuye Movement, which consolidated the foundational documents of our organization, the Constitution, the Restoration Manifesto, but also the key policy discussions that came out of the commissions and plenary discussions. We're an organization that is about reaffirming the dignity of African people and black people in the whole of South Africa. And the reason is because all the existing political formations have got no willingness, have got no capacity, have got no determination, and they've got no foreseeable possibility to could change the lives of our people. So we are coming as a liberation movement in the 21st century to liberate the people of South Africa. And we always illustrate the correct point that the people of South Africa have lost faith in the democratic institutions, and that is demonstrated by the fact that only 16 million South Africans out of the 42 million adults who are eligible to vote participated in the 2024 general elections. That is a sign of and a vote of no confidence in the electoral system of South Africa. That is why we then exist to re-inspire hope and give confidence to the people that we are an organization that is going to give a proper direction as to what should happen. But also as a movement, we do not just focus on electoral promises and commitments. We identify immediate community issues that we can be able to respond to now at all levels. So our structures at VD level should develop a program of action at ward level, at sub-regional level, even ourselves nationally. There's a lot of programs that we've been engaged in even during the consultation process, giving water to people and assisting with soup kitchens in some of the poorer areas, assisting old age homes in terms of what happens, because we appreciate the fact that our people are suffering now, are not suffering tomorrow, and they cannot eat electoral promises. So as a movement, we are an organization and a movement that is truly caring for the interests and aspirations of the people. And the outcomes of this national convention are a confirmation that we are a movement that is here to stay. Like to have a first national conference attended by delegations from all the 54 districts in the Western Cape, in KwaZulu-Natal, in Northern Cape, in Mpumalanga, Northwest, Free State, in all provinces. It's one of the most inspirational frameworks. Personally, this is the best national conference I've ever participated in my entire life.
We have it, Floyd Shivambu postulating his party as, the party of, a liberation movement of the 21st century, and then professing to uphold the rights and the dignity of black people on the African continent. Now, Professor, the Africa Mayibuye Movement says that it wants to win an outright majority next year. From your analytical lens, is this a serious political threat or a case of over-ambition without infrastructure, just considering that it's a fairly new party?
Yes, indeed, what you have mentioned at the end now. Unfortunately for Floyd Shivambu and his supporters, it's going to be a tough uphill battle for them, competing in a very congested terrain. He will compete against the ANC in the first instance, the EFF, MK party, and even some other parties, but those will be his direct competitors, and there's very little space left for them in order to mobilize support, which will be unique to the Africa Mayibuye party. And I think that is being involved in a local government election is possibly the most difficult one of all the types of elections, because you don't have only a national campaign and provincial campaigns, but you must have a presence at local level. And if you don't have the organizational infrastructure for that, then it's very difficult to be really successful. So I see an uphill struggle for the Mayibuye party in next year's election. I don't think they will have the organizational infrastructure, as well as the support in a widespread all across the different provinces. That's one of the complications of most of our opposition parties. They are concentrated in one or two or maybe three provinces, but not in all 9 provinces. And that is the organizational weakness that makes it for any of the opposition parties at the moment very difficult really to become successful and to build up a momentum. And that will apply to the Africa Mayibuye party also.
Now, Prof, I need to pick your brain on this. I mean, is this party feeling, I would say, a genuine ideological gap, or repackaging old rhetoric with a new name? I mean, there's so many, liberation-themed movements, and it says a lot, really, about the voter frustration with existing opposition and the ANC alike.
Yes, I think you are very much correct that this is a congested terrain. When it presents itself as a Pan-Africanist party or Pan-African party. Now, that is what the EFF also did when they were established in 2013. So it's not a new dimension that it really represents. It goes back, obviously, to the PAC in the 1950s already. So it's not, as I said, a new concept or a new dimension that they present where there's a gap, that there's a lot of people who will support something which hasn't been presented as an option yet to the electorate. And I think that's part of their problem is how are they going to distinguish themselves, for example, from the EFF. Floyd Shivambu is very much associated with the EFF, and now to be able to present himself as someone who has an identity completely on his own, which is not a variation on the EFF, I think will be for him quite a challenge. On top of that is the fact that it appears as if it's a party essentially built around him. There's not much of a collective leadership. And the national leadership is now one of its weaknesses, the high turnover of persons, the 2 deputy presidents that left their positions very recently. So there's a sense of that they haven't really stabilized the structure of this movement or this party. And I think that's going to be, from a public perspective or public opinion point of view, it will undermine the credibility that they will have in the minds of most people, is that they haven't proven themselves yet. People will simply hear what they are saying, but they don't have, like the other parties, a track record. And this is what we are seeing lately. The DA very much started with it to say, look at what we've done in government.
All right.
The Mayibuye party does not have that track record yet.
All right, Prof. Kotze, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And I suppose, the Mayibuye party needs to put South Africa, take South Africa into its confidence in terms of translating slogans into municipal service delivery plans, especially in local government elections where failures are most visible. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Well, that was political analyst Professor Dirk Kotze just giving us a preview of the ANC's upcoming National General Council, which will begin tomorrow, and of course a review of the Mayibuye Movement convention, which was happening in the past, over the past weekend.